Alrighty, well, hello, folks. Welcome to the Time Is Now Paranormal segments. And we are here again with Susan from Michigan, and we're going to be talking about the Berkley house and some more stuff that has to go with Freddie that we didn't squeeze in last time in the other segment that we did. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Susan right away, and we can get this segment going. Susan, how are you doing tonight? And welcome to the show.
I'm doing good, Chuck. How are you?
Fabulous.
Well, thanks for having me again.
I'll lead you kind of into it and kind of go with what you were telling me earlier. So you ran into, or not say ran into, you had your daughter was over last weekend, and she brought up some things that she remembered that had happened with Freddie that obviously as a parent you wanted to forget, and you just now remembered as well. You want to go ahead and go in? I know that you were telling me about how it kind of rushed on her with everything, but I'll let you go ahead and explain it, and I'll be quiet.
Well, basically what happened, my daughter woke up one day, and she literally went totally hysterical. She was trying to rip her clothes off. She was screaming. She was crying. She was running. And she just kept saying, "Get him off of me, get him off of me." And I didn't know what was wrong. I mean, there was nothing on her. And I said to her, "What's on you?" And she said, "Bugs, Mama, bugs. Get them off me, get them off me." This child was hysterical. I mean, I could barely even grab her because she wouldn't stop running. She was seeing them on the walls. She was seeing them on her. She was feeling them on her. They were on the floor. They were everywhere around her. She couldn't get away from them. And keeping her clothes on was like, after a while, I just said forget it, because she just felt better, I guess, with the clothes off. But it didn't matter. The bugs were still there with her. Well, this went on all day, and just the screaming and the crying and the yelling to get them off, and into the night. She was exhausted, but she couldn't sleep. She had not stopped with that behavior, and
and they were mostly spiders.
Spiders, yes, mostly spiders.
That when you told me spiders, to me that's like my nemesis. That's like kryptonite. That's like Indiana Jones saying snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? I hate spiders.
I do too.
and I'm the first one that if I see a spider on a ceiling, I won't go to bed till I kill it. If I gotta squeeze it, kill it, and if it hits the ground and then I can't find it, good Lord.
I know. I'm the same way.
And it's
I'm
funny
petrified
too.
of them.
My friends will laugh at me too, and they know this when they hear this, is because I go out in the woods and I'm in a tent, and you're nothing but bugs everywhere you go.
All the creepy crawlies.
And you'll always hear me when I'm walking, because I'll walk right into the damn spider web. And I'll be out in the woods. I'm like, oh, there's another spider on my face or on my head. But anyways, go ahead. When you said spiders, that made me, that right there gave me the creeps. So
I totally get it. When I had them, like, on my wall or something, I wouldn't even get a paper towel and get them. I would throw my slipper until I hit it, and that's how I handled spiders. But anyway, what was happening, and I honestly don't remember her telling me this, but she said what she would see was this Freddie coming at her at a very rapid speed, and it was only like the top part of his torso. It wasn't his whole body. And he would rush at her, and he would get right in front of her face, and then it was like a poof, and it was bugs everywhere. And this continued on and on. She was seeing this. I mean, I don't know a kid that could make something like this up.
Well, for her to remind you that this happened,
I know,
that she's still, how old is she now?
Lisa is 40. Yeah.
Okay.
40.
So to remember that when you're 5 years old or 6 years old, that's huge.
I know, and like I said, I can't believe I forgot about it. And like I said to you when we were just talking earlier, I probably pushed it away. Yeah. I didn't want to remember it.
For sure.
Because it was horrible to watch as a parent. So So anyway, as I said,
And this went on for a whole day.
a whole day. And then she, in her short little sleep that she had, when she awoke, it all started all over again. Just
Now you'd said you had reached out to the doctors, or you had.
I ended up calling the doctors that afternoon because this child was suffering horribly.
Okay.
And I couldn't help her. Holding her, nothing consoled her. So the doctor said they couldn't get her in that day, but they would get her in the next day. And, I don't want to keep going over the same thing, but what I've told you, this is still continuing to happen to her. And she's still in this panic mode. So the next day came, and I took her into the doctor, and she was still behaving like this because they were crawling all over her. So the doctor was seeing the behavior.
But she was telling you and saying, "Mama, you can't see it.
Yeah.
You can't see," like asking you if you could see them.
Yeah, she would say to me, "Mama, can't you see them? Can't you see them all?"
That would be scary.
And it was heartbreaking because I knew she was seeing something, but yeah, she didn't understand that part of it either. She was young.
Right.
So, the doctor examined her and through her screams, and he finally said, she can't keep going on like this. I mean, she's gonna really do some harm to herself, not sleeping and the screaming and crying. So what he ended up doing was putting her on a liquid Valium.
Wow.
Which, for a young child, that's pretty drastic. But it did honestly help her. She was able to finally fall asleep, like later on that day, and she slept. I think, if I remember, she slept till almost noon the next day.
Wow.
And it seemed to, that day seemed like it had stopped. I mean, there was no reaction. She wasn't trying to rip her clothes off. She wasn't saying anything about bugs.
So that ended it.
Yes, it ended it for her at that time. But it was horrifying to watch her.
Well, yeah, as a parent, anytime, that's all that is.
You think that, you can just hold them, and that's enough to reassure them and to comfort them, know everything's okay. But it wasn't like that at all with her. She couldn't stay still. She just wanted to run.
Tell me about the when she told you actually last weekend about the lifting off the bed thing.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. She never told this to me. I only found this out last weekend.
Okay.
We knew about the nanny thing, but she informed me that Freddie would come into her room, pick her up out of the bed, then put her on the floor next to the bed and push her under the bed.
Wow.
And it frightened her. She was afraid to move. She was afraid to try to get back up in bed. So I realized, and I discussed this with Chuck earlier also, for some reason I figured that Freddie was something that came in later, like had been there maybe 2 to 3 months. But when I'm hearing this from Lisa, I realized Freddie had been around for like 4 years. And she had never, told me about the face of him rushing at her with these bugs.
Mm-hmm.
So I never knew that was Freddie until she told me last weekend.
That's fascinating. And just that, and that she remembers, and that's
yeah, she
just,
remembers.
So being able to remember that stuff, I mean, that's pretty,
Yeah, I mean, she was young. A lot of times you wouldn't remember things from back then, but I mean, something like that. Yeah, she's got a very vivid memory of it.
Okay, one more thing that I actually want to address with you is, tell me about the wolves.
That was another thing. That started fairly early into things with the house.
Okay.
We never heard heard it. None of the other family members, but again, Lisa. She came to me and asked me if I could hear the wolves howling in the basement. And I looked at her. I didn't even think a child that age would know what a wolf was. You know, the dog, yeah, wolf, no. But she would hear them almost every single night howling in that basement.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know what that was all about.
Well, when you bring these things up, and I remember, and I'm trying to keep it in perspective, there's so many things that you add up to. She's hearing wolves. He's actually showing himself to her and scaring her with these bugs and all of this other kind of stuff, and then lifting her, moving around in the bed. Freddie definitely played, a significant role in that, in that stuff until you guys, which we started at the other segment, where you banished him and finally got him to go away. It's definitely it's spooky, it's scary, it's fascinating all in one to me, and I'm sure for you it's not the same. It's just probably just bad memories.
Memories. Yeah, it's just anybody that's been in this position. I know a lot of people have their own stories when it comes to the paranormal and hauntings and stuff, but when your children are, particularly Lisa, obviously, she was under attack. And not being able to protect them.
It's a parent's worst nightmare.
It was. And that's what I'm trying to say. It was. As for my youngest daughter, the only thing that ever happened in her room, she had poltergeist activity in her room.
Okay.
And basically it was just the door closing.
Open, close,
opening,
slamming.
Closing, open, closing, yeah. She doesn't have a memory of this. Maybe a couple things. Mm-hmm. And she was old enough. She was 6, 7 when we moved out. So she was old enough to remember, at least some of it. But she has decided, I guess, to wipe it from her memory. She just says, I really don't remember.
Blocks it out.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Yeah. I'm glad she's able to do that, Lisa will live with these things her whole life.
Especially now, if she's able to bring it up to you, too. There's definitely something that she recalls.
Yeah.
What about the, and we'll go back into the, stuff that was, again, we're kind of dancing around, I understand.
Yeah, we are.
This. What about the boom that you and your husband experienced?
Oh.
So that thing, if you want to go into that.
Sure.
Explain.
Actually, I think I'm going to back up a little bit from the boom. Only because I guess it's pertinent. But there was a night, my husband and I were sleeping, and he woke me up and asked me if I heard and saw what he did. And I said, no. And he's like, you had to have. Sue, you had to. There's no way you couldn't.
He woke you up like in the middle of the night or later on?
No, it was still the middle of the night.
Oh, okay.
And he says to me, I think there was a UFO over the house. And I'm like, what? And he said, I swear to God, I swear it was a UFO. Now, that was an experience for him that to this day I can't explain. I didn't share it. But it was very real to him. And you have to understand, my husband didn't believe in any of this stuff. There was no aliens, there were no ghosts, there was nothing. It's all hogwash. But the boom, what happened with the boom was like 2 weeks after that incident. And we're sleeping in bed. And all of a sudden there was this huge boom and the whole house shook. We woke up out of a dead sleep, and I had a cat that used to sleep in my closet on the half shelf. I saw her come flying out of there like her tail was on fire.
Wow.
And my daughter was across the hall in that room, and my first instinct was to get to her. And my husband's like, I'm going downstairs to check the furnace. The furnace in the house was so old. I mean, I can't even describe it to you, but it was like way overdue for needing to be changed. I've never seen a furnace like that. But anyway, he went down there. We thought the furnace exploded. That was the only logical thing. And I went in and, of course, grabbed my daughter, and she was fine. And he did a whole walk, around the basement and whatever, and there was nothing out of place. And it was just, we just kind of looked at each other like, what the hell just happened?
So the whole house shook and woke you up.
Yeah. Yeah, it shook.
Wow.
So that was, again, another one of those, there's a lot more going on in this house than we ever imagined.
Well, I know that you had experienced stuff, and I know that you said that he was away a lot because he was on road as a driver.
Right.
And so there was a lot of things that he didn't experience at the time, but then when these little things started falling into place, he
Right.
had nothing to say. Didn't you say he saw a woman one time, too?
Yeah, he did. That really freaked him out. Again, it was nighttime. Our bedroom was upstairs. It was a bungalow. And he woke up, and he saw what he thought was me standing looking out the window upstairs. And he thought, well, what's she doing, He didn't say anything to me, but he told me that's what he thought. What's she doing? And he went to move in bed, and he felt my body in bed. And when he looked back at the window, the female figure was gone. He realized it wasn't me. I was still in bed, sound asleep. That blew his mind. He talked about that forever.
He'd wake you up the next day or tell you about it, or
Oh yeah, he was all over it. He talked about it for days, days and days, and days. But no, I mean, he woke me up and said, told me what he saw, and he thought it was me, and then he felt me in the bed, and he's like, "What the hell?"
Wow.
The look on his face, I'll never forget it. But better him than me.
Right.
I saw the shadow figures, but he saw a full body.
Well, at least it gave the credibility so that he realized that there was more happening.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure after you had the paranormal investigators that came
Right.
out to the house and were doing their things, he had to lend credibility to go, look, there is something happening here.
Yeah.
And he knew.
Well, yeah, that exorcism performed in the house is what, when he came home, is what made him a believer. And once he believed, then they didn't care that he was home. They were starting to do these things with him home. So he found out real fast.
Well, I think from there we can go ahead and wrap up with this one, and we can definitely call this definitely a segment because you touched so many different things and you shared so much with us on this one. So we're going to wrap this one up, and I thank you again.
Thanks, Chuck.
And it's Time Is Now Paranormal Segments. I hope you guys enjoyed.